It's me. It's Alison Arngrim. Although some of you may remember me as Evil Nellie Olson from Little House on the Prairie. But tonight, thankfully, I am Alison Arngrim, and this is the Alison Arngrim Show. And here on the Alison Arngrim Show, we talk about things that make you feel good. The movies and the TV shows that make you feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. I got a good one tonight. I think some of you on Facebook, I told you was coming. I mean, I've been watching this man my whole life. Some of you may have as well. Absolutely amazing. And of course, he's got a book because we love people who have books. So now retired, amazingly enough, multi award winning broadcast journalist, multi award winning broadcast journalist, covered the news for 58 years. Yes, 58 years. First 15 in radio in Texas, Louisiana. The last 43 in television in Los Angeles. He worked as a reporter and TV primarily for FOX11 and KCOP and CNN, and hosted the public affairs series FOX11 News in Depth from 2017 to 2025. It just goes on and on. He has written an amazing book called Of All Things, An Accidental Career. My 58-year adventure in broadcast news reporter. It's Hal Eisner.
Yay!
Oh, this is marvelous. This is marvelous. 58 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just
Went
incredible.
by just like that.
Did it? Is it one of those things after you feel like it just went, it like zoomed by?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, to me, I still feel like, I'm in college. My brain is not caught up with my age.
Oh, that's really good. I was going to say, because after 58 years, it's like, are you exhausted or you feel good? So that's
Feel
good to
good.
know.
No,
So,
you know what? I retired in 2025, and
okay.
so far it's been a year. I retired on January the 2nd of 2025, which was my 43rd anniversary of being on television in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And I wanted to bookend it. I actually got to pick my own dates and plan it myself. And I
Nice.
kept my Sunday show for another 6 months to kind of step
Okay.
down so it wasn't so dramatic.
Abrupt, not abrupt.
Abrupt, exactly. And I have had what in effect has been a nice long vacation.
Wow. And but you're still doing something. You've written a book. I mean,
I've written a
that's the
book,
thing.
yeah.
My doctor's always saying, yeah, don't retire. But if you retire, do something. You have to be doing something. And this is so cool. So, I mean, the beginning, I mean, the fact you have 58 years, why is it called An Accidental Career? My 58 years. It's a fabulous title, right? As soon as Harlan told me, I was like, oh, no, no. He sends me these things. I got these people. So and so's written a book. And I went, no, no, him. I want him. Accidental career, my 50 years. Why is it accidental?
Thank you for having me, by the way. It was an accident. It literally was. I was in high school in Dallas, Texas, Hillcrest High School. I was in the marching band, played saxophone, and
Saxophone.
I was in at the football games every Friday night. And so the local top 40 radio station in Dallas, KLIF, had a contest. Send in a postcard. Tell us why it is that you'd like to report your high school football score on Friday nights. Well, I was there, and I thought, what a great way to meet girls.
Is this not often the way that so many
Right.
show business girls? I know it's why people start playing guitar. I mean, it's yeah, okay.
Well, I've got two guitars, an acoustic and electric, and I still only know how to play Secret Agent Man. But but I was in high school and I entered this contest, and I was either the only one from my school that sent in a postcard,
Wow.
or they actually pulled my name out of the box and I won, and that's why I'm here today. I was going to be a lawyer.
Incredible. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's how it starts. So you did, and so what was your first job then? They pull the card and they say you get to come in and report this.
No, I just called in and I'd give
You
them the high
call.
school football score on Friday nights. But then the guy who collected those had a little radio gig on a station that was the power of a light bulb, 60 watts, in Garland, Texas, at the Buckner's Baptist Orphans Home.
Okay.
And he would be there on Sundays because everybody else would be at church. And he asked me if I would come in and take a couple of stories out of the paper and read them and do the news on the hour. So I guess he could get a break. And and I did that. And so accident is not just a word about getting hit in a car wreck or something like
which
that.
is, yeah.
Accident is an inadvertent thing
Yep.
and it's something you don't plan. And I didn't plan on having so much happen as a result of writing a postcard and sticking it in a blue mailbox.
No, you who would imagine exactly? It's these kinds of like just, kismet fate kind of things
Right. But
that
you know
lead to
what?
stuff. I love that.
People were writing me saying the same thing happened to them. Not
It
exactly the same
happens, right?
thing, but they had inadvertent things happen, change the course of their careers.
So, well, I mean, I can absolutely look at my career, and it's people I met along the way, or I met someone. They said, "Well, I have this kooky idea. Do you want to do this?" Yeah, sure. And then escalated into a whole
Right.
fabulous thing. Absolutely. So you started on radio, and it's hard for you young people watching. It's hard to imagine that we didn't always have the television. We really didn't. That we actually that was the source of news and entertainment. People actually listened to the radio. You had to use your mind. Fred Astaire actually had a show, tap dancing, on the radio at one time,
Hmm.
which is just like what? But
Right.
um, radio was entertainment and news, and it was a whole other world. It was very different. It was similar to TV, but very different than what we think of now. Try, I guess, to explain to me, what was this like? This whole world where it was all radio, it was all people listening in, and this you were the source of news. There was
Well,
no
when
other
you
source.
yeah, but when you look at my age, which is, the first president I knew was a fellow named Fred Flintstone. And so, when you look at my age, I actually was in an era where there was television. And so it was like three television stations. We weren't in a
But yeah,
500 channel universe.
right. There were
And
three
so
channels, so the radio was still a thing.
but the thing about it was that you would drive home from work and you would be listening to the radio. And then when you listen to the radio, you would hear about a story, like maybe an oil refinery fire somewhere in the area, and you saw the smoke, but you didn't know what it was all from.
Right.
You would do what was known as appointment television. You would go home and you would go see that story, almost like you made an appointment. We don't do
Scheduling.
that anymore because of the proliferation of information, but that's how it was back then. And news was really important. I mean, news is always important in my mind. But back then, you had the radio, you listened to it in your car, and you had the television, and sometimes they commingled.
And sometimes back then, TV stations couldn't necessarily. Now everybody's got a helicopter, everybody's got a camera, everybody's got 10, they've got people on the scene, on the scene. But back when it was three channels and it was just, TV, they weren't everywhere. They tried, but they didn't all have endless helicopters and news crews and cameras
Well, we didn't have the
everywhere.
technology back then. I
It
mean,
just didn't happen.
you can have a helicopter, but you have to have a camera and you have
Yeah,
to have a microphone and you have to be able to blast a signal out. And that was not technology that was
didn't
available
exist.
back in those days.
So if you wanted breaking news, you wanted at the scene news, you wanted something that has happened right now, and the TV, they'll get to it when they can get to it here.
Right.
The radio was how you found out. That was the emergency source.
Right, right. And at the scene news was complicated because to take all the equipment you needed to have and to deal with that sort of thing, it was unwieldy. I mean, it really wasn't something that was easy to do. And so over time, that was a mission to try to figure out how to do these things. And now we do them with broadband. But
You
back
name it,
then,
everybody's everywhere.
we were doing phoners, you know?
Yeah, and people would phone in. You'd have all your. I remember my interviews were even mostly phoners. You'd phone. You'd say, "Oh, we're going to do a roundup," and you'd phone, 20, 30
Right.
radio stations to do your interviews.
And
And
look at
that's
us
yeah,
right now, what we're doing. We're using
internet.
computers
Yep.
to share information. And even though I guess this is an audio podcast, is that right?
Well, we get video too. It goes out with audio, video, and then they can download an audio one, depending on
Okay,
your
great.
service. Yeah,
But see,
yeah.
look at this. We're
But they
looking
do.
at each other. We're looking at
I,
each other and we're having a conversation. Imagine back then thinking that you could maybe do something like this years ahead.
yeah, it's just the change in technology is incredible. So you started in radio, and then when was the first movement into television? Because we identify you as it's Hal Eisner from the
Well,
TV.
we right. Well, we talk about the accident to get into radio,
Right,
but there were also inadvertent things that happened along the way that got me to TV. And among them were the people that I met along the way. There
exactly.
was a fellow named Larry Lamont, who was a news director of a Fort Worth radio all news station. He believed in me. He went to work for CNN and he wanted to hire me. Even though I had no television experience, he thought I had what it took to try to get stories. And CNN was very new back in the early 80s. And so he ultimately, after a couple turndowns, I turned down. Ultimately, he hired me and I came to Los Angeles. And again, to me, that's kind of an accident. That wasn't part of a plan.
Right.
And so each piece of this thing has a little bit of how did that happen? You know what I mean?
Well, and then some of the famous news stories you covered, you couldn't predict what you were going to wind up dealing with. You
Right,
didn't know that, the OJ trial and all of these things are going to happen and wind up being these historic events that you were going to
right,
be lucky enough to cover.
right. Well, I consider myself very lucky. I was in a front row seat to history and
Mhm.
oftentimes wrote the first page of it,
Wow. Wow.
right? And so, how do you one up that? I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it the same way. It's been a marvelous career. And the people I've worked with have been great. And we work in a business and maybe on your end as well, where you can have a lot of tension and you can have a lot of that going on. But still, we all work together, even if we're a dysfunctional family. And I think I've been very lucky over the years to work with some really wonderful people.
Well, what would you say? I mean, for people who are looking to become journalists in television or radio, yeah, I mean, what would you say is the biggest challenge, most difficult thing in journalism? And I mean, obviously, there's been changes over the years. What have you found to be the most difficult thing?
I think it's still the same as it always was. I mean,
Good,
the
good.
technology is different, but the idea of getting two sources to verify your information and all the things that are important to the ethics of it are still in play. I have a camp every year called Camp News. It's a weekend
Yes.
camp for people basically in college who are planning to be broadcasters. And I see each year these people, dozens, who come to the camp for anchoring or reporting, and we replicate an experience. We bring in actors. We bring in actors like you. We bring in
That's
makeup
incredible. I was
artists.
reading about this camp news.
Yeah,
How long is this camp news thing? This has been going on for a really long time.
since the year 2000.
Wow. Wow.
It's now 2026.
Yeah.
Do the math. But, it's a big deal. We have people that have come from across the country and we fake a news story. This is the only time, by the way, you'll ever hear me say fake news.
The only
And
the only fake news you do is
yeah,
for
yeah,
class. That's it. That's
right.
all we do. No fake news
And
here.
we do a reporting camp. We do an anchor camp. The
Wow.
camp involves the LAPD, the LA Sheriff's Department. I mean, local agencies like fire and DEA, and they come out and bring their public information officers. And we have this story with actors with special effects
Wow.
makeup, and it's a big deal. And then we also have an anchor camp at Pepperdine University where they have a studio, and these are all in close proximity. And so we have English reporting, English anchoring, Spanish reporting, Spanish anchoring, and we throw in a little radio if somebody's interested in covering that.
Wow. So this is huge. This is for college students. Just not just
Now,
anybody can sign
it can
up.
be anybody
Really?
because I
So if somebody
started at the,
watching right now goes, "This
yeah,
is incredible. I want to learn about this. I want to
yeah.
go. I want to go to Anchor Camp."
It's always first come, first serve. Well,
Right.
next year you're coming as an actor.
Am I?
Yeah,
Oh my God, can I be in this? I could be like one of the news
yeah.
stories where they
You
have to
could be you
report.
could be one of the victims in the story.
Oh wow, it was terrible, terrible. There was fire everywhere. And I could be one of the Oh,
Right,
I am so up for that. Yes,
right.
please put me down for that. I will do
Of
that
course,
in a heartbeat. This sounds
of
like fun.
course.
How many
Absolutely.
people usually are in a class?
It can be anywhere from, we try to keep it small because we really want to be able to provide kind of a boutique kind of experience. And by the end of the weekend, they have to leave with a video of their work from the
Right.
workshop. So we max out at probably around 60,
Oh,
but
that's
we will
nice.
take we'll take whatever comes. I mean, we've had as little as 25. It's not about the numbers, it's about the experience and
Okay, well
learning.
that's good. That's good to see.
And
That's really good.
we've had people in their middle ages who have come
Really?
because they're thinking about the idea of a career change. But I think it's
Brilliant.
harder for them because I know that, corporations always look for younger people in acting, right? Right. Or in
Yep, yep. Got to be
anything.
pretty, 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 pretty anchors now. Yeah.
Although we can't, one thing that's important is experience. But
Hmm.
if you come in at a later age, you don't have the experience, it may be a little more challenging. I never say never because I believe anything that you want to do, you put your mind to it, you can do it. It's like that song from the movie, wasn't that? Well, the song that said, if you think you can fly, you can probably fly.
Well, see, this is why I think you're still here after all these years and had this career. I mean, this kind of positive outlook, this kind of attitude. And it's interesting because we talk about the accidents. You were in a very severe car accident. You were hit by a car during a story.
Yeah, it was an SUV.
Oh, ow. What happened?
And
This was not
if
that
you
long
go to
ago.
your computer, go to your computer and Google Hal Eisner crash. You'll
How
see all the
Eisner,
pictures.
yikes.
It was covered by
Yikes.
everybody.
So this is in 2021. This isn't that long
2021.
ago.
Yeah.
And you got nailed by a car. What story were you covering?
Coming out of the pandemic, I was interviewing the president of Starline Tours, and we were talking about
Oh
coming
my
back
God.
out of the pandemic and getting back to business as usual. And I was doing an interview, and I never saw him coming, but a driver who was intoxicated at 3 o'clock in the afternoon jumped the
Okay.
curb at 40 miles an hour, I understand, hit my cameraman, hit me, hit several tourists, and went into the window of the Highland Market right by the El Capitan Theater. I had six
Ah,
fractured ribs. I had a fractured tibia plateau in my knee. My cameraman had his collarbone completely disconnected. That had to be put back together. And he had fractured ribs. And, authorities and everybody was out, even the chief of police was out there, Chief Moore at the
I'll
time.
bet.
And people told us we could have been killed. There was that kind of an accident that could have killed us, and we were lucky.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh my God. And it's so crazy because the pandemic, the tours. I was doing a tour in Hollywood at that time, did the Nasty Nelly tour of Hollywood. Then the pandemic can't put people in a tiny
Right.
little bus. So, I mean, the middle of Hollywood Boulevard, and this guy was at 3 in the afternoon, hammered, and almost took you out.
Yeah, he did, and it was terrible. It was on the same day as my ex-wife's birthday, my oldest daughter's birthday,
Oh,
uh, but I never saw it coming. And what we saw was that from the top camera from a light standard, I flew through the air.
you would be airborne. Yeah, that
I was
impact
like
could be
I was like
literally airborne.
Superman. I was like without the cape.
Yeah. Ow.
Yeah.
How long were you in the hospital?
Between that and the California Rehabilitation Institute, probably about a month and a half, 2 months, and home care included.
But
So,
that's very fast. You had broken ribs and you got hit that hard and you went out in a couple of months.
well, here was the thing, and I think this gets into positive thinking, but
Hmm?
I found that when this happened, the viewers in this city came to our side. My social media blew up, my emails, my text messages, everything. And to this day, people will come up to me and say, "How you feeling?" I mean, there was so much care and so much concern, and it motivated me to think, I want to show everybody that I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to let
Hmm.
somebody take me out and retire me early. I'm going to get back in front of that camera. I'm going to get out there and do those news stories, and I'm going to stay on. I stayed on for several more years.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is it. You are, it's what I was getting from everything. It's looking at this guy. This guy is a survivor. This is absolute survivor. You have the survivor mentality of you get hit by a car. Okay, well, how do I keep going? How do I do the next thing? How do I connect? And it's about connecting to people and having a goal. This is absolutely, this is fantastic. I can't wait to read your book. Do you talk about this attitude in the book of how people can use these kind of tools?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
I,
yes.
this is my memoir. This book is really a collection of everything from the time I was born.
Wow, wow, good,
And
good, good.
so, it really looks at the life of a broadcaster, me, and how it all came to happen, which wasn't supposed to happen, and
Right.
the things that occurred during the course of it, good, bad, and ugly, and the people I met and the experiences I had. And I think that, it is a memoir in that sense. And I think that I'm very proud of what we put together here. And it's great. It's great to look back on your life and say, They didn't really do all that stuff, you know? Wasn't
Well,
real.
you talk about like the hard part of it. What do you find you enjoyed most about being a journalist? I mean, what were the things that because to stay in this business, to stay in that particular business for 58
Yeah.
years, that takes a lot. There has to be something about it that no matter, whether they run you over with a car or you have to cover terrible events, something that is so enjoyable that you're staying. What drove you to stay?
I love people. That's it. I
That's
love
it.
people. And you won't get in a more people-driven business than broadcasting because you're dealing not only with colleagues, I'm dealing with people every day of the week that in many cases have had tragedy.
Yeah.
And yet they'll talk to me. Now they'll talk to me because they see me and they know me and they have come to trust me. But I sort of refer to it as a schmoozability factor.
But it's true. But it's
Yeah.
true. I know what you're talking about because I mean, I was just talking to someone the other day about doing autograph shows, for instance, and
Yeah.
personal appearances. I do a
Yeah.
lot of that, whether it's a historic little house site like
Yeah.
Walnut Grove or it's a thing. You have to want to be around people and talk to people. You have to like it a lot,
Yeah.
or it's going to wear real thin quick. And a lot of
Yeah.
people go, "Yeah, I don't really like to do the personal appearances, the autographs, because I got to talk to people for like hours." And I'm like, "When's the next one?" Because I actually enjoy it. People go, "Oh, you go, it's good money." I go, but yeah, the part where I get to talk to people all day, I think that's actually fun. I
I know
actually
people who
enjoy
do
doing
that.
that.
Yeah, I know people who do the signing events
Yeah.
and just love that because they get to see the people that helped move their career forward.
Yes.
And I think that's a very important thing
You make the
that
direct contact with the fans and you go, okay, what do you guys want to see more of? What do you like? You're
you're sh-
polling for your
but the
next
point
thing.
being your show may be over, but you're not.
Yeah, right, right.
Right?
And you find out, you go, what do you want my next thing to be? And they tell you, and it's gratifying. See,
Can I
I
show you
love
something?
this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. This is for those who are watching. You see that
Look,
little girl right there?
wow, who's that?
Okay. Can you
Mm-hmm.
see her?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
got me.
I had gone to Houston because the Houston Fox reporters were worn out during Hurricane Harvey. And so I and a camera crew went from here to be able to help those reporters tell the story of the hurricane, the damage, what was going on, what to be careful of, what not to go near, et
You're
cetera,
right.
et cetera, et cetera. On a Sunday morning, I went to a place where there had been a church. That church was torn down by by a tornado that was spawned by the hurricane. And there were people sitting in folding chairs praying. And as a reporter, I am a trained observer, and I'm watching the people, and I noticed this one family, and the family really, seemed like a wonderful family. It's the family right there on the bottom, right
Oh,
there.
look.
Okay, and I noticed that that little girl seemed upset,
Yeah.
and I was trying to figure out why. And I asked her, I said, "Are you okay?" And she immediately reached over, get over there, and hugged me and cried. And I said, "What's wrong?" Camera's rolling. I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I thought my parents were going to get killed."
Mm, mm.
That's an example of a moment. And to me, if you were to ask me the question, what was your favorite story? I would tell you, I don't really have a favorite story. I have favorite moments. I've covered stories from Columbine to the Northridge earthquake to mass shootings, political stories. I've covered all kinds of things. But what I remember the most are the moments like that little girl hugging me. She didn't know me. I didn't know her. But in that moment, she felt comfortable and she felt like she wanted to hold me. And I'll never forget that as long as I live.
And someone was there and she had found out that her parents had made it and it was just, I mean, I guess it would all then come pouring out and that you showed an interest in her. You were like, no, really, are you okay?
But you asked me the question, what is it that kept me in this business so long? It was the people.
I'll do it.
It was the people. And so I feel like that somehow became a calling. The law thing, maybe a pipe dream in high school, but it really turned out to be something that I really cared about, and I really do care about people. And when I retired on January the 1st of 2025, the next day I was on a plane to Florida, and the next day I was on a ship to Belize and Cozumel.
Boom.
And about 2 or 3 days later, the fires happened.
Oh no, right?
And
And it
I was
was
like,
nuts.
I'm trained for this. I'm trained to be in the middle of those fires. I have all the gear. I know what to do. And yet I retired and there's nothing I can do.
Oh,
So when I came to my senses, I started helping people on the ship who were losing, their kids were losing their homes.
right. There were people on the ship who couldn't get back, and their friends or their own homes
Yeah,
could
but
be
their
burned
kids'
while they were.
homes, the ones that I met, their kids' homes were burning down and they were so upset. I got back and I couldn't just go grab a microphone. I didn't work for the company anymore. I wasn't insured with the company
What are you
anymore.
going to do?
I went to South Pasadena and I went to a clothing giveaway and I chipped in. I started handing out clothing to people who lost everything.
This is incredible. This is, I mean, I get it. I get it. I see. I mean, God, I really need this book. That's the thing, because it can't just be about, oh, I like my job because the science of this or this is fun, or well, I'm giving back, or oh, it pays well. Just enjoy the money. There has to be something more for someone to do something for 58 years. And now this is all making sense. But this is why also you were so popular on television, and people, oh, Hal Eisner, because there was a connection, because people could see this. You weren't just, well, today in her yeah, they knew that you were personally connecting to these stories and to the audience and to the people you work with, and that's why it came across. There was something about it, like, why do we like it better when he tells us the news than someone else? And I think I'm getting why that is now.
Well, I think uh, as much as I'd love to give opinions, I would hardly ever give an opinion on anything except how cold or hot it was outside, and that's because we don't opine. If you're a mainstream reporter whose job it is to get both sides of the story or more than both sides of the story, then you're committed to the notion of doing that and not injecting your own feelings. And that was always the way I did it. That's what I've taught people at the camp, at Camp News from year after year after year. Our job is to tell information, not to tell our opinions. If you want to tell your opinions, become a commentator.
Right. There's tons of that. I mean, the
Right,
problem is also I don't think people distinguish nowadays, because I turn on the TV and I go, well, this is interesting. This is not the news, but I
right,
understand it's not news. These people are discussing an event and they're giving their opinions. These are commentators. These are the talking heads, the pundits. And
right,
they're going, what did I believe to be that? And I'm going, well, that's great, but that's not telling me what happened. They're going to tell me how they feel about what happened. So I
right.
need to go change a channel or tune in later, maybe when they get to the part. But so much, because we went into these 24-hour news cycles and they
Right.
had to fill, is the commentary about talking about, sometimes they come on and they're talking about the people talking about the news, and I go, oh
Right.
my god, they've walked up their own butt, they're talking about themselves now.
Right.
And it's hard to find people just going, here's what happened.
Right.
And people even say they have trouble finding people, just tell them what
Yeah,
freaking
but a
happened.
little history here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there used to be a thing called the entertainment wheel. At least that's the way I knew it. The
Wheel.
entertainment wheel on radio was news on the hour and the half hour, and in between country music, rock and roll music,
Yes,
or
yes.
talk, or whatever. That was the entertainment. This was the news. And when the cable networks came in, and keep in mind, I worked at one of them,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at the time that started to come in, people started to blur the lines.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When you started having commentators or people who were talk specialists, um, the Rachel Maddow's, the Sean
Yeah,
Hannity's, the people out there who they're talking about stories, but they're
yeah,
not
that's their
reporting the
thing.
news. They're talking about the stories. And the opinions that came from these sides, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not throwing them under the bus, but that was the entertainment. And so if you were to the left, you'd listen to this. If you were to the right, you'd listen to this. And then this started to become more and more divisive as the politicians started to become more and more divisive. So I think that, to me, there's a chapter in this book called There Is No Fake News. And I
Thank
honestly believe that.
God. Yes.
I honestly believe
Thank
that
you.
because I think that those of us who are charged with the responsibility of really digging for the news, getting the information, verifying the information, corroborating the information, and then articulating the information, we won't have a job if we make up stories.
And that's the thing is, it's like I said, the commentary is it's entertainment. It's very entertaining. I don't mind. Sometimes I will watch you. Oh, they're talking about it, but this is they're hashing it out. Oh, okay, this is interesting. I will watch it, but it's not the same as the news. Talking
It's a
about the
different
news is
thing.
not the news.
It's
And
a
I get,
different.
but a lot of people don't. A lot of people say, "Well, I watch the news," and then they start saying, "Well, so and so said, so and so said." Well, that's not the news. That was the after party where they talked about it. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think of news as northeast, west, and south,
Yeah.
and the things that happen in the north N, the east E, the west W, and the south S news. That's how I've always sort of framed it in my mind.
Okay.
And I feel like uh, we're a very litigious society. And if you say something that's going to offend somebody because it's inaccurate or fake, they're going to sue you. And you're going to find yourself on the next stop in front of a judge. And it never happened to me in 58 years.
Interesting that that never happened to you in 58 years. How did that happen? Hello.
Did my job.
Do you think that do you find as you look at that people are doing less corroboration now? They're not
Not the real
digging.
news people, not the
They're
ones that I
still out
know.
there. Okay, the real people. So there's still real news still happening, not fake news where they're checking it, they're corroborating it's actually happening.
I was talking to a really lovely host of Talk Radio Europe. And this was a couple of days ago. A similar interview to this, talking about the book and et cetera. And I asked her, I said, "Do you think there's fake news?" Because she asked me that. She said, "Oh, yeah, we've seen a lot of stories here." And I said, "Well, wait a minute, where did they come from? Were they?" And she said, "Well, they were stories about actors and actresses and people and
Yeah.
public celebrities, and they were all wrong. They were all made up." And I said, "Well, was that the mainstream media or was that the tabloids?" And she said, "Well, mainly the tabloids." And I said, "Well, that's your answer there, because
They're a tabloid.
those of us who go to school, who learn what's right, who embrace the tenets of ethics, who protect the First Amendment, we know what our job is, and our job is to get out, get the facts, get it right, and give it to you on whatever medium we're on. And when
Right.
we when we fall
And the
short of that, it's not right."
And the problem with entertainment news, you have the tabloids, but then you have a lot of entertainment, and I've seen it because I know because I am an actor to have a publicist. I've seen some of these stories are created by the entertainer with their publicity team that they send. It used to be faxes in the day, get those faxes out, and then it was emails to various news outlets in order to the person is trying to promote a movie or book, so they have some story that is a publicity stunt often where they will send that out, and some stations will go, oh, and they'll check it, and some will just put it in the trash, and some will go, it's a slow day. Well, what do you know? And they'll wind up reading this, and I'm at home and I'm going, I know that didn't happen, and I know you read that off a thing that some actor in their
No, but
publicist
but
sent
there's a
you.
difference. There's a difference. I mean, if you read something off a press release, well, that's okay if you've checked it out. But if
Yeah.
you haven't bothered to make a single phone call about
Yep.
that press release, then you're not doing your job.
Right, and I've seen it. I've definitely seen it, and I go, you maybe just call the guy back and say, did that really happen? Anything at all? So yeah, we do feel like we're just inundated with all of this stuff now. Of there's more. I mean, if I look on the internet, I'm seeing way more tabloids than news stations, and there just is. And so people are saying, well, can I believe anything? But as you're saying, well, yes, if it's actual news, you don't go read the tabloid.
My advice is pick the broadcasters you trust. Pick the news reporters, the anchor people, the stations, the networks that you trust. When I have this camp, I will tell these aspiring reporters and anchors to, when you see a story or you know about a story, pick five reporters and see how the five reporters do the story. Now you're going to find
Yes.
each one does a little bit differently because we're all different and we see things through a different filter.
Mhm.
As long as the facts in the five stories are all accurate, then they're accurate stories.
There's a couple of websites where they're even doing that. And they go, okay, here's the same story, and they'll even pick something that's doesn't even seem particularly controversial. Go, here it is on this channel. Here it is this channel. Whoa, they're showing different footage. Oh, they're showing you from a different. Well, they're emphasizing this part. They're emphasizing this part. So what's going on here? Who, which one? You can see which one is the news,
Well, you hope to have different footage because you want to one up your competition.
right?
You want to get the Ring doorbell footage that they didn't get. You want to get the movie clip that the studio lets you use, but with permission that they didn't think of getting. I mean, you don't want all five stories to look like they're carbon copies of each other. That
Right.
that we're journalists, and as journalists, our job is to dig for the best possible story. And sometimes you'll find that the other reporters have a better story. Sometimes you'll find that I've got a better story than the other reporters. But my advice is find reporters you trust. Find stations you trust. Watch those. And then understand when you're watching the pundits and the commentators that they're commentators and they are telling the information that's not made up
But they're
and
just doing their thing. It's a
they're
different
but they're
thing,
no, but they're not making it up. They're commenting on it. They're
right?
giving their opinion of it. And, unfortunately, we're in a time when not one, but many politicians have decided that beating up on the press is a good thing to do, and it gets them points somehow in the public. But, I will remind you that there's a First Amendment. Without a First Amendment, we are a state-run media.
Yeah, we
You
have
don't want
nothing.
that. You don't want that.
That's why it's the First Amendment, because without that, the other amendments kind of like, oh, well, nice knowing you.
Right, exactly. And I think that I always took pride in the fact that I was a First Amendment protector. Yay. I like the Rams. I like the Dodgers. I like the Chargers, but I like the First Amendment.
What would you tell someone who wants to be a journalist? Because obviously you have Camp News, so you have
Do
people who want
it.
to be journalists. What do
Yeah,
you
no,
do it?
do it. Do
Just
it.
do it. Is there a certain personality that lends itself better, a certain type
No,
of
because we
person
all
that
have
should be
different
doing it?
personalities, and
Fantastic.
you'll gravitate to the one you like. And we all have different accents, and you'll gravitate to the one you like. Look, we will always, I believe, have purveyors of information.
Hmm.
I just flat out believe that there will always be purveyors of information. Now, whether that information is provided on a radio or a television, or someday maybe even a hologram, I'd rather call it a hologram
We'll have
than a hologram.
microchips on projecting
Who
stuff on
knows?
our eyelids.
Who
It's
knows?
yes.
But it doesn't matter the device. It matters the responsibility, the ethics, and the brain of the people telling you the story. So I think we'll always have information. I think we'll always have people that have an ethic and will do the job well. And I think, when I see these students coming out to this camp, even as late as this last December, we had our most recent camp. I feel good about what's coming. I feel good that there are people who are going to be able to deliver the news and tell people what's going on in the world.
This is fantastic. How do we manage though, like getting news from other countries? We've seen this where a country is undergoing a revolution or some upheaval, and they cut off the news. They cut off people's internet. They cut
Yeah.
off their phones, so people can't even get a phone and call someone. Go, here's what's going on out here.
Yeah.
What do we do? How do we get
Well, they're
information?
they're cutting off a source of information, the information that is provided to you. And sometimes, there are groups of resistors who find ways to get information from the outside. I don't believe we'll see that in the United States of America. But it does happen elsewhere. It has happened elsewhere. And there are those who provide information because they hear it from other sources. This is an area far beyond the scope of my capability. But I think that, we need information. We need to know what's going on. Why do we need to know about a pursuit? Well, if it's coming down the 101 and we're planning to go up the 101, then we don't want to get in that area because we don't know what's going to happen. So giving information about a pursuit is probably a pretty good thing. Why do we want to know what the weather's going to be like? Because we want to know whether we need to take our umbrella. Why do we want to know if it's going to be freezing outside? Why do we want to know if it's going to be windy? Because here, wind means a possibility of a fire. So information is
Really?
really important for us to plan our lives around and our children and our parents and grandparents. And so I think information is a very important commodity. And anybody who would like to find a place in media, I suspect there is a place in media, especially now that you have websites and you have this and you have that, and there are all kinds of vehicles for providing that.
Exactly. Between, yes, you no longer have the one venue. You have a million channels and a million channels in streaming. There's just endless places to do this. I just, I find everything you're saying terribly inspiring. I suspected you were a true survivor with the 58 years, but yes, now I'm seeing why these connections to people. Um, so in your book, you do talk about this sort of advice, as it were, to give people about the correct, this sort of attitude, this positive thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it. I frame it in what's helped me, as it's not necessarily a, positive attitude for dummies, but it's got information. But I'll take you back to when I first got here, and I came to Los Angeles in 1981. At the end of '81, starting in '82, and there were people on TV here like Bill Stout, and there were people
Yes,
on here like Stan Chambers, and there were people here like you know with big names and big careers and lots of experience. And I thought, I'm not going to last 2 weeks.
really. I mean, those are big names. I see. I mean, it was an amazing lineup at the time. But you thought, no, I can't. These guys are.
It
So I
wasn't
never.
that. I had no experience. I came here from radio. Why in the world would I have any kind of traction in a business like that here in the second largest market in the United States? It's unheard of to get a job with that experience in the second or first largest market, first being New York. And I'm going to tell you, I really thought that that was going to be, it was 2 weeks. I gave myself 2 weeks and I
Wait,
was
two
going to be in.
weeks.
And then I didn't like Los Angeles because it was too
A
it
lot
was
of
too
people don't.
big. It was too
It
big.
is big.
It was too big.
It's chaos
I,
out
I
here.
couldn't even in my mind imagine where the exits were on the 405 freeway that I needed to get off of, and where is the 405 freeway?
Yeah, and the fact that it's everything numbers. Yeah, take the 10 to the 405 to the 134 to yeah, yeah.
So what I did was I turned it into nuggets. Where I live, where I work, where I go to restaurants, where I visit friends. That was my Los Angeles. And once I got it down to bite size, within a year, I loved LA.
Well, that's true because I mean I grew up here, but yeah, I honestly, as anyone who grew up in LA can tell you, there's whole parts of LA that we've never even been to. It's
Any
like
city,
everybody I
any
know never
city.
been there. But there's the places I know. Yeah, where are my friends and where do I eat and where do I
Yeah,
shop and where do I go and where do I work? So I know there's certain areas. Yes,
right.
and those are seem like small towns. I say it happens nearly every day where everybody knows each other. I will say, there's really only 50 people in LA. They just move around very quickly and
Is
make it
that
look like
right?
people.
Got
They
it.
just all step to the right when the cameras are because every time I turn around, I'm at the post office and they say, "Oh, who just came in here?" And I know so and so. My cousin is friends with your friend. It's like constant. It's like
Right.
everyone knows everyone. I go, so wait, I thought this was a giant city where nobody knows anybody and is disconnected. Yet everyone I know is terribly tight knit and everybody knows everybody. It's crazy. It's like,
Yeah. I
is
mean,
this a small
you're
town?
talking about a place with millions of people and
Yeah,
it's not possible to know everybody, but as you spend time here, you get to know more and more people. And but it was the geography that made it difficult for me. It was just the
that's
massiveness of it. And I found a way to get around that. And I think the moral of that story is you can always find a way around something if you try hard enough.
which is true because it's like up or under, go around. I don't know, but yeah, and then that's the thing. It's like I'm still here.
Yeah.
My SAG card since member since
And
1967.
I'm
It's
on the national board of SAG-AFTRA.
you indeed you're on the national board. Fantastic, and that's the thing is I've been around here forever, and that's because okay, yeah, there's a way. There's a way. There's always some kind of obstacles. Things happen all the time. There's some way around or through.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with connecting to other people and seeing how you can make it work together.
We're all about people. You can't, I don't think you can be a hermit. I
Mm-mm.
don't think you can live alone in a cave and not interact socially with others. We're all about people. We may have people we don't like, we may have people we tolerate, and then we all have probably people that we love. But life is about people, and if you want a good life, get to know some good people.
So this is marvelous. So now you have the book. You're doing the camp news. What you're retired, haha. What else are you doing in addition to putting out what's gonna clearly going to be a
Uh,
hit book and having the camp?
I'm taking art classes.
Seriously, did you do that?
Yeah, and this one right here too.
That's so funny. Oh, a penguin. Who knew? So okay, so you're retired, but if this book blows up, which I think, I mean, when
I
does the
do
book
that on
officially?
Mondays.
Well, that's Mondays is art. Now, when does the book actually come out? Because I'm seeing pre-order. It's out
27th of January.
the 27th. So it's coming 27th of January. Now, obviously, I know since you are dealing with my fabulous publicist, Harlan Boll, who we know, you're going to do a lot of interviews. People are going to know about the book. And now what I'm hearing, this is so much more. And people, if you haven't figured this out, this is clearly so much more than a dry, yes, I am a newsman, and here are the stories I cover. Yeah, it's all in there. But you are talking about how to live, how to
Yeah.
connect to people, why these things are important, why journalism is important, why information is important. So this book is kind of going to blow up. So are we going to be doing a book tour? Are you going to be going around speaking?
It's funny. I have a friend, Paul Skolnick, who used to work at KCAL
Hmm.
and managing editor. And he said to me one day, he said, Hal, he said, you think the work of putting a book together was hard. Wait till you try to push it. Wait till you get out there and try to get it in the bookstores. Wait till you try to find book signings. And that's when the job really begins. And I'm finding that to be true. Suddenly now I'm a bookseller. And
Yes.
I'm contacting bookstores and saying, would you please carry my book? And I'm saying, do you allow for book signings? Could I sign up for a book signing? I got an email today from one of the big stores that says, we'd love to have you here, but we don't have anything before March. Can you do
Yep.
March? And I said, of course.
Yep.
But the thing is, there are a lot of people writing books, there are a lot of people doing signings, and there is a limit to how many you can have at one time, I suppose. So, yes, I'm hoping that there will be signings. I will put those up on my social media, and every social media I have is in my name, Hal Eisner.
Excellent. Excellent.
And I will do that. I will put a link to this on my social media when your producer sends it to me.
Right. Right.
Producer, do you hear that?
Which will be
And then
like instantaneously, and it'll go
perfect.
to Harlan, and Harlan will have it and tell everyone.
Perfect.
It'll be all on my page. But you've also, yes, you've got Harlan, so you'll get some extra. I mean, I found when my book came out, I of course had a lot of attention. So I had a lot of book signings. For me, it felt like I was strapped to the front of a roller coaster, and they just kind of stop every few minutes and give me a sandwich and drink of water and go, "Yeah, good,"
Yeah.
and turn it back on. And so I was just like on a plane and going to book signings, doing these constantly.
Yeah.
So sometimes having a book can like launch a whole nother career, a whole nother world.
I feel like I'm working again.
Yeah, right?
I feel like I'm working again. But you know what? This is nice. I mean, I'm very proud of this book, and I talk about family. I talk about my mother, my father, my sister, my brother. It's a memoir, and I'm pleased with the book. I hope it was not written to make money because you don't make money on books, and I hope that people will read it and maybe get some lessons out of it or whatever. But I think we are all, every one of us, is a book with legs. We're just waiting to walk around. And I think that if you can get the gumption and what it takes to try to put a book together, anybody could have a book and a good story to tell because I think over the years of our lives, we do become the whole of our parts. And I think that those parts are probably pretty good stories.
Wow. Wow. All right, everyone, go get the book. It's now what you can get it on Amazon. You can get it
Amazon or
all
Barnes and Noble, right?
online. Barnes and Noble, all the sites. As you can see, it's a lot more than just a, oh yeah, he was a newscaster, celebrity
And you
man. A
know
lot
what?
got some going
For
on.
those who take the time to get it, if they contact me on social media and give me their address or whatever, I will send them a little book plate with a little signature. They put it in their book, and
Yes.
I'm more than happy to do that. And also, if you go to haleisner.com,
HalEisner.com.
I started haleisner.com in the year 2000, 4 years before Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook. And yeah, I mean, I could have been a visionary, but I started it as a news vehicle. And when 9/11 happened, people from New York were sending me their pictures and I was putting them out there. And it was very fun. And then when all the other things came along, I became more enamored with Instagram, Facebook, all those sort of things,
Right,
LinkedIn.
right.
And so I've converted haleisner.com into a site that is a companion to the book. And I'm probably going to take interviews like this and put the links in there as well. But there
Absolutely.
are interviews there right now with a former anchor here in LA from channels 279, was a reporter on KNX, Elsa Ramon. And Elsa interviewed me and we broke it up into 6 parts. And
Wow.
it's right there. And it also gives additional information on the book.
It's an entire Hal Eisner emporium at
So,
haleisner.com. This is incredible. And again, once again, yes, retired people say, at your age, again, someone in your generation or age group to be this connected with social media, this connected to the world, this connected to what you're doing. Absolutely inspiring and fantastic. This is great. This is great. Thank you so much for coming on. I knew this was going to be good. I've had even more fun than I thought I was going to. This is
well,
awesome.
I got to thank you, though. I got to thank you for inviting me on and for giving me some time to visit with you. I've enjoyed every second of this.
Oh,
We
thank you.
have to keep in touch now.
Because I have to
We
come
have to
to
become
town.
BFFs.
Okay, okay, not a
And you're coming to
problem.
camp next year.
Oh my God, I am so excited to invite me to do the camp news. I'm like, yes, I love
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I love that kind of thing.
Right, right, right.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, Hal Eisner, and yet I'm Alison Arngrim.
I found my way home across the